to see how they get on in the full race environment. Some of them having raced cars before, others in their first ever car race. Red lights are on. 18 minutes of GB4 Championship. We get the championship season underway any second now. The lights will go out. A little bit of creeping further down the grid. We've got one that's stalled on the grid, I'm afraid to say, which I think is Jack Sherwood. I think everybody has thankfully avoided him whilst he is stricken. He finally fires the car up, but it's going to be Nicholas Taylor that leads the way from Alex Walker as they work their way through Ritchie's for the first time. Pole sitter managing to convert to the early race lead as they head in towards the braking area for Wilson. Alex Walker was braking late as he possibly dare there, going in towards the hairpin, but he lost out a little bit. And if anything, it might be Jared Waberski that might be able to squeeze through into second. I think he has done, yeah. So Jared Waberski up into second position by the look of things. In fact, is that Tom Mills? Let's have a quick look. No, it's Tom Mills. Tom Mills has got himself up into second position. So a really fantastic start. He's got the orange wing mirrors. That's how you can tell the two apart. Up towards the braking area for Agostini. Nicholas Taylor leads the way. Tom Mills with a fantastic start from the driver that finished fourth in the National Formula Ford Series last year. He's got himself ahead of Alex Walker as they flick their way through Hamilton for the first time and head in towards the braking area for Oggies. So it's Fortec Motorsport leading the way. Second place is going to be Kevin Mills Racing. And third place will be Elite Motorsport, so 3 different teams represented inside the top 3, as it was on the grid in reality. So down the Bentley straight for the first time, in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson. Nicholas Taylor, the 17-year-old, leading the way at the moment. Good fight going on for 4th place as well by the look of things. Side by side in towards Brundle and Nelson. They will thread their way, but it is going to be Jared Waberski that is going to run wheel to wheel with Max Maserati, who's got the inside line as Max and is just about able to elbow his way through as they head up towards the bomb hole. So Max Maserati now up into 4th position, whilst the leading trio break away a little bit and head in towards the braking area for Murray's to complete the first lap. Nicholas Taylor leading the way. Over the start-finish line, they will thread their way. Nicholas Taylor leads the way. Tom Mills in second place, coming under pressure from Alex Walker as they go over the start-finish line. Alex Walker absolutely on the gearbox of Tom Mills. Is he going to squeeze his way up the inside as they head in towards Ritchie's? Yes, he does. Through goes the 18-year-old who finished runner-up in the National Formula Ford Championship last year, through and ahead of one of the drivers he was fighting wheel-to-wheel with in that series last year, because he's just gone through and ahead of the driver that finished 4th in the series that he was racing in last year. So the two of them know each other well, albeit they are both going to be pushing each other as hard as they possibly can. But that little overtake has just allowed Nicholas Taylor to open up a slight advantage now. Max Maserati settling in his newly acquired 4th place and has already started to pull away from Jared Waberski, who is in danger of losing a further place here, actually. In fact, I think he is going to lose out. Yeah, through goes the Swedish driver. Elias Adastem goes through, picks up a place. So Jared Waberski qualified in 3rd, but I'm afraid that Jared is now down into something like 6th position now. So he's been picked off by a couple. Plenty of time for him to still settle in, because we've got 15 minutes remaining of this first ever GB4 Championship race. Down the Bentley straight there will go. Nicholas Taylor for Fortec Motorsport leading the way. Not really under any great deal of pressure from Alex Walker, who is too far away to pick up a great deal of tow, if anything at all, as they went down in towards the bottom section of the circuit that time through. So for Nicholas Taylor, he can just afford to make sure that he keeps that gap where he wants it to be. Remember, 35 points for a championship win in this race, 29 for second, 24 for third, goes all the way down to 1 point if you finish in 20th place. We've only got 12 cars on the grid, so if you finish 12th, you'd still pick up 9 championship points, but there's no extra points for fastest lap. There's no extra points for qualifying. Over the start-finish line now go Nicholas Taylor leading Alex Walker, Tom Mills, Max Maserati, then Elias Adestem at the wheel of his newly acquired 5th place. Jared Waberski dropping down into 6th place. Megan Gilks is there in 7th place. Chloe Grant's there in 8th place, so she's done well. She qualified 11th. She's now up into 8th place. Jessica Edgar is 9th. Jack Sherwood is 10th, I'm afraid to say. That's the car that stalled on the grid. Jack was 4th in qualifying, so he's really having to slowly pick them all off. And then we've got Logan Hanna, who's there in 11th place, and Christian Lester is the last of the runners in 12th position at the wheel of the Rosso Verde racing car. Nice to see Rosso Verde back on an entry list again nowadays. Christian Lester rather, is son of Hector Lester, who was a long time competitor in the British GT Championship, largely in Ferraris for a good number of years. So the Fiat engines, the Abarth engines, working hard. These little 1.4 litre, 160 brake horsepower engines, pushing these drivers around the circuit as quickly as we can. Pole time was a 1 minute 48.6. Fastest lap we've had so far is a 1 minute 51.2. And that's gone the way of our race leader, Nicholas Taylor, who is on lap number 3, threading his way down through Brundle and Nelson, and still has that daylight, that all-important daylight that he needs between himself and Alex Walker. The rest of the fights we've got at the moment is probably still for 5th and 6th place, because Jared Waberski is hugely keen to get himself through and back and ahead of Elias Adestam. But for the moment, the South African is losing out to the Swede as they work their way through the right-hander at Coram and up towards the braking area. Adestam with the white and red livery, but it's got the day glow flashes around the airbox and around the wing mirrors, whereas it's the grey and the lighter blue colours that sits behind in the hands of 16-year-old South African Jared Waberski. Getting in the slipstream now, closing up as they head up towards the top section of the Bentley Straight. He's still not quite close enough though to try and sneak his way through, get a nice clean exit, see whether he might be able to do something on the run up in towards the Wilson hairpin, but I think Adestam was looking to try and cover off any move there. The difficulty is, of course, in these cars, because they are slicks and wings, is that the closer you get to the car ahead, you lose aero off your car, you then start to overwork the tyres a little bit, so it's really quite hard to stay right on the gearbox of a car without causing yourself problems. So, past Tyrrell's Bar and Restaurant, which remains open, by the way, in towards the braking area for the left-hander at Agostini. Sun still glinting off the cars. Now, these two need to be careful now, because closing up behind them is going to be Megan Gilks. So the Canadian, 21 years of age, is really starting to close in now. She's got plenty of single-seater racing experiences, Megan. So did National Formula Ford last year. She finished 10th in it. We've seen her out in Formula 2000 in the past. She did W Series. I think she won the non-championship event that was held at Assen out in the Netherlands. And is certainly a driver that's well worth watching. But for the moment, what she needs to do is try and catch these two ahead. She's not quite fully caught up with them now. She's not far away, but she's not fully up onto terms with the two cars that lie ahead. The first of which is the number 8 car, the second of which is Jared Waberski at the wheel of the number 20, the Kevin Mills Racing prepared machine. So again, nose to tail through Coram, up towards the left-hander at Murray's. Jared Waberski working hard to see whether there's any opportunity to try and retake the place that he lost to Elias Adestam a couple of laps ago. Adestam trying to break the slipstream on the car of Jared Waberski, but Jared's having absolutely none of that. He's sitting firmly on the gearbox of him, and now is there an opportunity again? Adestam has to move from the left-hand side of the circuit as he exits Ritchie's to the right-hand side to cover off the inside line on the running towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. Nothing doing still. Close stuff, but clean and tidy between them all, and we're not far away from the halfway point of the race now. 18-minute race. We've got 9 3/4 left. All of the time, whilst Nicholas Taylor continues to lead the way. Last time through, set the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 50.222, and he now has built up a 2-second advantage between himself and Alex Walker in second position. So it's Fortec Motorsport from Elite Motorsport, then Kevin Mills Racing. Max Maserati is next up, ahead of Elias Adestam and Jared Waberski, who complete the top 6. Megan Gilks is there in 7th place. Chloe Grant is 8th. Jack Sherwood's gained another place on that lap, so the man who stalled from 4th on the grid is now up into 9th place, which means that dropping down to 10th goes Jessica Edgar. Logan Hanna and Christian Lester still wrap up the 12 runners that we've got at this stage. But the best of the fights is still for 5th, 6th, and I think you can probably now include 7th place, because Megan Gilks has certainly managed to, as good as get herself right up onto terms with the pair ahead now. So she's been working hard, trying to close that small deficit that existed. And at the wheel of what is, I think, a Hillspeed prepared car. She's now right up onto terms with the Kevin Mills and Fortec cars that lie ahead. For our race leader, though, Nicholas Taylor, safely through Ritchie's. Another lap completed, another lap in which he's just set the fastest lap of the race as well. 1 minute 49.867 for Nicholas Taylor. Not quite the perfect lap. It was green in the first sector, which means that's quicker than Nicholas has previously gone, but he was purple in Sector 2 and Sector 3, which is quicker than anybody has gone through the second and third parts of the lap. And if you weren't with us earlier on this morning, or you've only just tuned in, the circuit here at Snetterton broke into 3 sectors. The first sector brings them from the start-finish line to a point that's roughly on the entrance to Agostini. That's part 1 of the lap. Part 2 of the lap is from there to roughly where the bridge is on the Bentley Straight, and part 3 brings you from there to the start-finish line, so we can see how cars are getting on throughout the lap and then see as to what ultimately the lap times might look like. That was a good little squabble that was going on there, and Megan Gilks almost managed to get a bit of an overlap there and squeeze her way through. But it didn't quite work for her in the end. If anything, she's lost a little bit of time there, the Canadian, so she's going to have to sort of regather her thoughts and try and work her way back up onto the coattails of those rounds. So through goes Lace Leader. There's Alex Walker. There goes the next of the cars as well, which is in 3rd place, which is going to be Tom Mills that sits there in 3rd position. Max Maserati in 4th. 5th now is Jared Waberski. Down to 6th, I'm afraid to say, is Elias Edestam, who did lose out on that lap to Jared Waberski, who finally was able to unpick his way through. The South African is already sort of disappearing up the road a little bit there. So another lap about to be concluded. The number 64 car of Megan Gilks pushing hard, trying to see whether she can gain back any time that was lost on that lap. She's still only 7/10 of a second behind Elias Edestam. So she should, as long as she's neat and tidy, be able to get a bit of a tow, I would have thought, heading through the Bentley Straight. Over the start-finish line comes Christian Lester, who has fallen, well, towards the tail end of the field and dropped away from everybody now, really. So he's sort of 14 seconds adrift of where Logan Hanna is on track. So Christian Lester is having a bit of a lonely race relative to everybody else at this stage, but with the all-black Rosso Verde entered machine. Someone who isn't having a quiet race at all is Jessica Edgar, because if she looks in a mirror, she's got Chloe Grant right on the tailpipes, actually. So this is a good little fight that's going on between the number 17 car and the number 10 car. And they did swap round on the last lap as well, because Jessica Edgar had managed to get herself ahead of Chloe Grant, took the place away and moved up into 9th position. Chloe is looking to return the favour and put her Graham Brunton racing machine back ahead of the Fortec machine that lies ahead. Also, you can see that Megan Gilks has closed up evermore now as well onto the coattails of the number 8 car of Elias Edestam as well. So she had lost a little bit of time at the wheel of the 64 car, but she's now clawed it all back again over the course of the last couple of laps. So she's working ever harder. Of the 18 minutes, we've got about 5 minutes still remaining, and we've got 7 laps so far completed. Whilst through the bomb hole comes Jessica Edgar under this pressure from Chloe Grant. And not that far behind is Logan Hanna as well. So the 2 Graham Brunton prepared machines sort of ganging up almost on the Fortec car of Jessica Edgar that lies ahead. Over the start-finish line go the 3 of them now. Nicholas Taylor leading by 3 seconds. This squabble that we're looking at heading round through Ritchie's corner. Jessica Edgar, Chloe Grant and Logan Hanna are about 30 seconds adrift of where the race leader is on track currently. But it's good value, this fight, actually. There's another good fight still going on for 6th and 7th place, which we mustn't lose sight of as well. And that's just heading up towards Hamilton now, which is Elias Edestam, the Swedish driver, coming under pressure from the Canadian, Megan Gilks, that sits behind, Megan Gilks, rather. Whilst Megan has always sort of managed to reel in, once she's reeled in, either she loses a little bit of time or doesn't feel quite as comfortable in the car with less aero going over the front of it, and then sort of drops back a little bit again. I think that's where we are at the dropping back stage again now. But I've got to say, other than poor old Jack Sherwood, who had the stall on the start, and there was another slow starter a little bit further back, it's been a really good race, actually. They've pushed each other hard. We've seen a little bit of overtaking. It's always difficult in slicks and wings formulas to have lots and lots of overtaking, but then we've seen some changes for position. Absolutely, we have. And if this is the start of the GB4 Championship in partnership with the BRDC, then it's a very solid start as well. 12 cars on the grid for this one. Promise of more cars arriving for the next 3 rounds that will take place at Alton Park when they are supporting the Intelligent Money British GT Championship and the GB3 Championship partnership with BRDC. From there they'll head to Silverstone again, where they're on the same bill with British GT. That's in May. Back end of May it's Donington Park. They're back here at Snetterton supporting the British GT Championship on the 25th and 26th of June, so that's one that's well worth coming along to back here at Snetterton. Then it's on to Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit, where GB3 and GB4 are together. British GT are there earlier on in the season. And then the final 2 weekends of racing at Brands Hatch in September and at Donington Park in the middle of October. So it's 23 races over the course of the season, if I've got the maths right. Albeit that's not divisible by 3, is it? So 24, let's say. 2 minutes to go. Nicholas Taylor comfortably leading the way. Fight for 6th and 7th still not fully resolved. It's still the number 8 car of Elias Adestam that's still just ahead of 64, which is Megan Gilks. Those two, as they came over the start-finish line last time through, were separated by just 0.364 of a second. We've also got the 2 Graham Brunton racing cars separated by about 0.3 of a second as well. They are, by the look of things, in a different order now, because I think Logan Hanna has made it through on this lap. Yeah, and Chloe Grant is behind. So, yeah, it's the number 9 car ahead of the number 3. So, Logan Hanna has picked off her teammate on this lap and has now moved herself back into the top 10 once more from what previously had been an 11th position. So, a minute and 10 seconds still remaining. So our race leader will be on to the final lap of the race for Nicholas Taylor. And once we get this race concluded, we'll be gauging some reaction from the drivers in Parc Ferme, and then I think we will be bringing you the formal podium presentations as well that will be taking place after this one. Now that's provided we get time to squeeze it in before we then head to our next Classic Sports Car Club race that will be taking place. But the headlining GB4 Championship providing some good action here at Snetterton, opening their 2022 account for this brand new domestic race series. And well, Logan Hanna has not given up with 10th place. She might be wanting 9th here if she can work her way up into contention and pick off Jessica Edgar. We've also got a good fight going on for 4th place, because Max Maserati has really been caught over the course of the last few laps by Jared Waberski. So Jared Waberski last time through set his best individual lap of the race, a 1 minute 50.4. That was 1.2 seconds quicker than Max Maserati could muster. So the number 81 car in 4th place is now coming under a little bit of pressure in the hands of the 21-year-old. Jared Waberski, just 16 years of age, South African. So out of things like karting into cars, where he competed in the South African Formula 4 Championship a season or so ago. Certainly racing is in the blood, with his father having raced single-seaters for a very good number of years. And it certainly looks as though Waberski is not giving up at all. And neither is Megan Gilks not giving up at all, because she is still hot on the heels of the number 8 car of Elias Adestam. But checkered flag is out, and Nicholas Taylor takes the first ever championship win in GB4. Alex Walker finishes in 2nd position. Tom Mills is going to finish in 3rd, but who's going to finish in 4th? Because Max Maserati is almost getting caught on the run towards the line, jinking out from behind to not quite draw himself alongside. Goes Jared Waberski. So it is Max Maserati that finishes in 4th position. Jared Waberski finishes in 5th place, and Elias Adestam does hang on to 6th position despite the pressures that were always being applied to him by Megan Gilks. Jack Sherwood recovered after his stall from 4th on the grid, unfortunately, to finish in 8th position. But at least he was avoided when he was stricken on the grid, and other cars had to swerve around him, and at least that's some consolation, a few points for him for his early championship tally. He will net, 13 points for finishing in 8th position. 9th place will go to Jessica Edgar, and Logan Hanna is in 10th place ahead of Chloe Grant. And the last of the finishers just about to take the checkered flag now, just coming through the final corner. It is the 23-year-old who we've seen out racing in British Formula 4 in the past and Australian Formula 4. It's going to be Christian Lester that will take the checkered flag to finish in 12th position in the first ever race for the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, our headlining championship for this weekend. So a solid start for them. 2 further races to come. Both of those will be taking place tomorrow here at Snetterton. One of them will be in the morning. They sandwich in their second race in between all of the qualifying that's going on in the morning. They will squeeze in their second race, and their third race will take place later on tomorrow afternoon. Remember, that third race well worth tuning in for, because it is a reverse grid race. So confirmation of the results then: it is a win for Nicholas Taylor by almost 3 3/4 seconds in the end from Alex Walker, who finishes in second place, and Tom Mills in third. Max Maserati finishes in fourth place, just ahead of Jareth Waberski, who really closed up towards him at the end of the race. And in sixth place, also having a busy race, holding off attacks from behind, was Elias Esterdam. Megan Gilks finishes in seventh place. It is Jack Sherwood in eighth place. Ninth place goes the way of Jessica Edgar, and it was Logan Hanna that completed the top 10. In 11th place, it is going to be in 11th place Chloe Grant that finished in 11th place, and it was Christian Lester that, for Rosso Verdi, was the last of the cars home.